Thank you, OA President Accra Joel Nete. Thank you so much. And our keynote speaker has taken his seat. And so I will also take my seat and invite our panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great honor to introduce our first panelist up on the stage. He is an extraordinary leader whose impact spans governance, law, and national service, a respected member of the Central Regional House of Chiefs, and president of the Asin Orenchi Traditional Council. He has devoted his life to advancing his community and his country. He's a barrister at law and solicitor of the Supreme Court of Ghana, a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Administrators and Management Consultants, and has served as chairman of many distinguished boards. It is with great anticipation and respect that we welcome one of our panelists, His Majesty Ehuna Bobrim Pra Ajensam VI. The next panelist that I have the pleasure of bringing up on the stage is a force for nature, a champion of clean air, green spaces, and peaceful surroundings. She has led efforts to protect Ghana's forests, fought to preserve cherished green areas, and spearheaded campaigns against noise pollution, inspiring others to join the cause for a serene environment. With a deep commitment to the environment that has earned her international recognition as a climate change hero. Her journey has spanned decades, from founding environmental groups to receiving honors such as the Brent Citizenship Award and election as a Fellow of the Royal Society of Arts. Driven by a passion to protect Ghana's natural heritage, she's a lawyer and tireless advocate for a sustainable future. Please join me in welcoming Awila Sewa. Ladies and gentlemen, we have two more panelists to invite onto the stage. I want to introduce a dynamic leader with a deep passion for transforming the artisanal small-scale mining industry. He brings over 12 years of expertise in mining management, law, and conflict resolution. As CEO and co-founder of Transico Minerals and Mining Limited and founder of Gold God Entertainment Limited, he's been instrumental in advancing the sector. Additionally, he serves as the General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Small-Scale Miners, advocating for the rights and growth of licensed miners. Please welcome Godwin Amar. Last, but definitely not the least, ladies and gentlemen, our fourth panelist is seated and ready to join us. He's a relentless advocate for engineering excellence and media integrity, with a commitment to shaping the future of Ghana's industries. Leading the EMI's Chamber of Ghana, he stands at the forefront of the fight against illegal mining, passionately advocating for environmental responsibility and media freedoms. His leadership journey spans top roles as Managing Director of Graphic Communications Group Limited, Chief Operating Officer of Multi-TV, and MD of Optimum Media Prime, blending engineering expertise with strategic vision. He is an engineer and a distinguished fellow in multiple professional bodies. He's a visionary pushing the boundaries of Ghana's progress. And he speaks very passionately on that media coalition against Galamsey. Let's welcome Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe. So we are good to go. Just to remind you that there's a WhatsApp number that you can send your messages to 055-339-8483. I'll start with Nana. Nana, when you hear the theme being read out, Ghana's death by Galamsey, who will bell the cat? What runs through your mind as a traditional leader?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
I would have answered very quickly and shortly by saying what goes into my head is the lecture that has just been given about who the cat is and who the mouse is. But let me deviate a bit from your question and making an attempt to give my opinion, which I believe is the reason why I'm here. I'm not representing any traditional authorities. I'm here in my own right as a citizen of Ghana to give an opinion of Galamsey. When I had this invitation, I tried very hard to craft my ideas, and I came to the conclusion that if I talk about Galamsey, I will be talking to the converted. Everybody who is here is anti-Galamsey. I'll have to make that assumption. So I tried to look for a solution to the problem. So I would defer to the moderator, and at his own time, when he decides that I should make a contribution towards solution, I will. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. But I think I'll stay with you, if you may, because as a traditional leader, and you speak for yourself, but as a traditional leader, why have traditional leaders actually failed to take a stronger stance against Galamsey? It's something that beats a lot of people's minds, because they all, I hear on TV and radio, the Chinese don't know where to go, or the foreigners or whoever. They have to go through a traditional authority to get access to land to dig up. So why are the chiefs not pushing back?
To be honest with you, I am not in agreement with you on the fact that chiefs have failed in fighting this Galamsey. There are so many reasons. And I know that some Chinese and some other nationals go to these places, not only see the chiefs. Some citizens in the villages, in the towns, have taken upon themselves to be agents of destruction. And they meet these people, and they themselves have farms. And there are no legal sanction on any chief who gives a land to be farmed, and it is turned into Galamsey. No sanctions whatsoever. That is one. Two, chiefs have not got the sort of powers that you think they have. Let me give you an example, a typical example. When we were being colonized, even the colonizers left the chiefs with more power than our own people who took over.
That's true.
There was a case that got to Supreme Court of Ghana. Incidentally, as a lawyer, I agree with the decision of the Supreme Court. But listen to me. The case that went to Supreme Court was to determine whether the chief of a community has the right to compel a habitant to come to the palace to answer some charges. You know what the Supreme Court said? The Supreme Court said the chief has no right to compel any habitant, any citizen, or not even citizen, anybody who lived within his jurisdiction to come to the palace to answer any question. He said, the Supreme Court said, even the President of Ghana has no power to compel a citizen to go to Jubilee House. If he thinks the citizen has offended the law, the president should report to the police. As a lawyer, I see the legal argument in this. But as a citizen, I say to myself, it is not everything that must be judged in a legal manner. There are other things in life more than law. Live, let's live. Humanity. Supreme Court could have decided that, if all the palaces refuse to adjudicate on civil cases, the whole judicial system in Ghana will collapse. At least the Supreme Court ought to have known that chiefs are allowed to adjudicate on civil cases. So the Supreme Court could have said, as long as the matter is a civil matter, you are compelled to go and see the chief. In that case, the chief whose land has been given to somebody, Galamsey, could have called him to the palace and said, listen, I don't want to do Galamsey on my land. So please if you're going to continue, put my land, I was going to say down, and leave. Even that the chief cannot do.
Right.
So to say that the chiefs have failed in contributing towards eliminating Galamsey is a bit harsh, to say the least.
Thank you very much, Nana. So we overestimate the powers of the chiefs. That's what I'm reading from Nana. I'll come to you, Madam Sawa and Dr. Ashikbe in a while, but Mr. Ama, so you are the General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Small-Scale Miners. Do you find that people lump you with the Galamseys and look at you and point fingers at you and say you are destroying the land? Do you get that a lot?
First of all, good evening.
Good evening. Yeah.
I think it happens a lot of because of information gap, as I would say. A lot of people, when they hear Galamsey, what comes to mind is small-scale mining. Small-scale mining is different from Galamsey. But what people see and the equipments that are being used, they think is the same, but it's not the same.
Do the small-scale miners use the excavators as well?
They use excavators. If you watch the Minerals and Mining Act, the definition of small-scale mining in Ghana is one. It should not be more than 25 acres. You should be a Ghanaian, and you should be above the age of 18 and of sane mind. Then you can apply for grounds to mine. And it also gives you the opportunity to use equipment to mine. Those days, we have what we call artisanal mining. If you watch the small-scale mining space, I define it into three. The artisanal mining operations, the semi-mechanized, and then the fully mechanized operation. Where the fully mechanized operation, you have entrepreneurs who are in there. Their investment is quite high. They use highly skilled personnel in their operations, and you see them like the large scale, but just in size. Then you have the semi-mechanized operation where they open their pits and employ a lot of people. Some use boards and others. Then you have those who are doing artisanal. Most of them, they don't even apply for license, and their impact are not that much. They can be farmers. They come during the dry season in groups. They pick, they lose, and get some income.
Are you saying that The only difference between the small-scale miners and the Galamseyers is that the Galamseyers don't have licenses, but
the license is number one.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you are going through the process of formalization, the legal regime is what gives you the right as a person to mine.
But in theory, you can all have the same kind of equipment.
You have the same kind of equipment.
You use changfangs too?
No. Let me explain. When we talk about changfang, we have what we call the dredgers on the rivers. And they use the engine that is called changfang. So changfang is a brand of an engine, which helps because one is cheaper, is accessible. The association, we did some work around the Western North areas. We have about 125 to 26 shops. These are Chinese shops. Each of them is selling this equipment, about 100. So if you multiply with 120, you could get about thousands of changfangs that are already in the system. So changfang is just a brand that are used for many things. Some use it for irrigation. They can use it with a pump and pump their water in for irrigation. Some use it for vulcanizers, using it. So that engine is multi-purpose. But 90% of these engines are used for dredging. That's why you see them a lot on our river bodies.
Is it legal?
It's illegal. The law does not permit dredging in this country when it comes to. These are the red zones, the water bodies. Then we have a buffer of 100 meters. You don't work closer to highways. So if you see people working in the river body, you see them working closer to highways within the buffers of 100 meters, close to electric pylons and all that. They are all perpetrating illegality. The license that is issued to every small-scale mining is site-specific. You have your coordinates. If you are supposed to work in this room, when you move away from here and you mine elsewhere, you are perpetrating illegality. So anywhere you are working with your license and all that is site-specific. So if you see someone working the river body, it's not a small-scale mining, it's illegal mining. The Minerals and Mining Act, the amendments that were done in the 995 redefine what we call illegal mining. Those days, people look at it as illegal small-scale mining. But we realize that we have large-scale concessions, prospecting, recognizance, and mine leads who assign their licenses for people to mine, especially on prospecting, which they are supposed to prospect and find the gold, whether it makes commercial value for them to apply for the next permit and all that. So you realize that they pass these lands and give it out.
So the large-scale guys are...
Some of the large-scale
Some of them are actually helping.
So that's why the definition, forest reserves are not given to small-scale miners, because the law says the small-scale miners lacks capacity to mine in forest reserves. So all forest reserves the concessions are given to large-scale operators. Before, those days, you have Cherano, Newmont, and all these companies working. Even their tailings, they are not supposed to store them in the
What are tailings?
The waste that you have to. So if you dig, there's a proper regime in place for them to work in those forest reserves. So if you see people working the forest reserve now, passing the lands out, giving it to Chinese and all that, these are large-scale, some of these large-scale operators who are not working according to the schedules of the permits that have been given. But because we don't understand those operations, everyone says it's a small-scale mining, small-scale mining, small-scale mining. So the redefinition in the amendments really says that illegal mining can be perpetrated, whether on large or small-scale.
I'll bring in Dr. Achimota in a short while, but let me just come to our last one. Professor Gordon was right when he said it's just a complex case. Is the law helping us to find who needs to belt the cat? Because you're listening to definitions, and is the law helping?
Well, for me, what I would say is that you can have laws, but if you're not prepared to enforce the laws, then the laws are just decoration. Our problem is not the absence of laws. Our problem is the enforcement of laws. Let me give you a little story. In Achimota, in the Western North region, they have a beautiful stream, which was pristine. You know, the color was just like this, Achimota stream. So they said categorically, we do not want community mining. We don't want any form of mining. We are cocoa farmers, we are farmers, and that's what we want to do. Community mining was being forced down their throats. We took the case to court. So the case is currently in court. Then in August, 2 excavators found their way to the landscape. We contacted the regional minister. He was of no help. Eventually, we contacted National Security, and the excavators left, and I thought, thank God. Unfortunately, they came right back. They started the illegal mining, and the stream was turning brown. I went to the regional minister, no help. I contacted the police commander, who was finding it difficult to do anything. In the long run, the illegal miners were arrested for a day, released, and they went right back to polluting the stream. Then on Farmers' Day, 4 of the cocoa farmers, one of them is actually a teacher, another one is an assemblyman, were arrested.
This year's Farmers' Day?
Yes. This, what is 13th? What date was Farmers' Day? Yeah, for allegedly burning an excavator, which was being used to pollute the water body. The police were very quick to arrest them. I called the commander and asked for police bail. He told me that he was on his way to the Farmers' Day, and they were still investigating. By the afternoon, they had taken them to court and had them remanded in custody. So look at this scenario. The persons polluting the landscape are walking free, and those who were trying to do something about it were in police custody. Our lawyers were not able to get to the court in time. The lawyer, they tried to get a lawyer who happened to be there. He tried to get bail for them. They were still remanded in custody until today. We managed to get our lawyer to travel to Atronsu, and they were released today. But not 4 of them, 5 of them, because one community member went to visit them in prison, and he was promptly arrested by the police.
For visiting?
Yes, because the police said he might have been one of those who burnt the excavator.
The visitor went inside?
Yes. So he was also released on bail today. And our lawyer was telling me that he was furious when the prosecutor tried to have them remanded in custody for 2 more weeks, saying that he hadn't completed the investigations and that they were looking for advice from the Attorney General. You've already charged them. You've had them put in remand for 2 weeks, well, not 2 weeks, until today, and you wanted them to be kept in custody for 2 more weeks. All I'm trying to say is that the way we are operating the law is very bad. Now, the reason why people come down on small-scale miners is only because, in many cases, people see small-scale mining as another form of illegal mining. This present case I was talking about, the police commander told me that they had a license, and it was sent to me. It was supposed to be a community license. Now, as Professor Frimpong Boateng has told us, even if you have a license, if you go outside the parameters of your license, what is it? It's illegal mining.
Just back it up a bit for me. What is community mining? How is that different from the other kinds of mining?
You know, we masquerade under so many things. Call it community mining. Just call it anything. The important thing is that we have the large-scale mining. And that one, I think there are only about 10 or so of them. So it's easier to monitor. We don't have a culture of enforcement. So when you are monitoring a few, if you want to do it, you can do it. Now, the small-scale mining, there are thousands of them. There are thousands of them. So if we can't even monitor 10, I don't see how we're going to monitor thousands. Now, with this particular case, I contacted the EPA. Now, the EPA gentleman was telling me that even when you have a community mining license, you can't just go and mine. You're supposed to get something from the EPA. And he was asking me whether they had a document from the EPA. I don't happen to work in the EPA, and I don't issue license. I don't know. So I said, I don't think so. But being in the EPA might be a little easier for you to find out. Till this date, they haven't been able to do that. And this was on the 13th of September. We happen to be in November. Now, the point I'm trying to make is that we may have all the beautiful laws, but we're not able to enforce. So our problem is to do with enforcement. And it's because we are not able to do that or unwilling to do that, that people are asking for a pause in small-scale mining. Only because a lot of distraction is going on, and we are not monitoring. The other thing I'll say is
Mr. Ama will not be happy with that pause.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Ama will not be happy with that pause.
Well, you see, I'm not trying to make people happy. You said before we started that Ghana was what we're all interested in. We are Ghanaians, or even if we are not Ghanaians, we are living here. And I think all of us are interested in the welfare of Ghana. It doesn't matter which political party you belong to. Ghana is where you are. if the forest reserves are gone, the lungs of the country are gone, we are all going to suffer. If our water is poisoned, we are all suffering. And let me say this, when the water is like this, mercury is colorless. It doesn't mean it doesn't contain mercury. Ghana Water has told us that they don't remove mercury from the water. So the fact that the water looks clear doesn't mean it's free of mercury. Another point I'll make with respect to the chiefs, if you look at a place like Gemma, the chief is against mining. And he has made sure that there's no mining.
Which area is this?
It's in the western region.
It's called Gemma.
So, yeah, Gemma.
Gemma.
J-E-M-A.
Gemma.
And we have a very good man called Father. Today I'm so tired because of all these things going on. Father Blay, he's been on city and things like that. In fact, we've been trying to have chiefs against Galamsey.
Is he a priest?
Sorry?
Father Blay?
He's a
priest. Okay, all right.
But he's been very instrumental in getting together with a chief, who is a fantastic chief, and ensuring that there's no mining in the area. And in fact, I was told that if you look at an area where there's illegal mining, something has happened. If the chief, the political authority, and the police decide there will be no illegal mining, believe me, there will be no illegal mining.
Those are the bellies of the cats, right?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. But what happens a lot of the time is that there's a break. Either you have the police who are complicit, or you have the chiefs who are complicit, or you have the political authority who are complicit, or all three. And I gave you the example we had, where in Gemma there's no mining. In Atronsu, for instance, the chief is in favor of mining, because he's not thinking of tomorrow, he's thinking of today. And I would say that if our ancestors had been as greedy and wicked as this generation is, we wouldn't have come to meet anything.
Prof. Gordon rightly said it's a mental illness, right? What's happening here? Yeah.
It's greed.
It's greed, huh? Thank you so much, Awolasowa. Now, yeah, sure. Thank you. And for those of you who are watching on Channel One TV, thank you for your eyeballs. WhatsApp number is 055-339-8483. So let me now go to Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe, who has synthesized not only the keynotes, but contributions from Nana, Mr. Ama, and Awolasowa. Dr. Ashigbe, so we have reports upon reports from the media, but very little action on the ground. What's your level of frustration in the attempts to bail this lion, not even a cat?
Well, thank you very much. It's great that we're doing this at this time, because you know what has happened is that Prof mentioned when he got to a particular number, it would not go onto the slides, the number of petitions that we had, the uproar that had come based on the fact that we had got a BDT of water to get to 14,000 NTUs. And all of us appropriately should be angry. And then, you know, so with all that we did, with all the media did, and organized labor also got involved, and government stated that there were some enhanced measures. It is important to go back and look at what it is that has happened. One of the things that was promised was the fact that when Parliament returned on the 15th of October, we're going to have the repeal of that obnoxious law. The law that saw the NDC and MPP sit in Parliament and decided that they will give the president the power to allow people to go mine in forest reserves, including areas of critical biodiversity areas. And again, look at what the media did. Who were giving those licenses to go into those places? So again, when we mention the fact, the issue of illegal mining, and we attempt to scale it to small scale, to only small scale, we make a grave error. You see, the interesting thing was that Gordon, he doesn't like mentioning names. But me, I'm one of the few who would mention names. Achimota mining. When they were found in the Tanonimre Forest Reserve, the Forestry Commission has done a report that indicates that they were engaged in an illegality. Achimota Mining is not a small-scale mining company. Heritage Imperial were giving a prospecting license. They were also in the Apraprama Forest Reserve with about 36 excavators. As any engineer, you know that nobody prospecting would need 36 excavators. I have mentioned that to the Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural. I've mentioned it to everybody. There's been no arrest done. Achimota mining, nothing has happened.
What can 36 excavators do?
Oh, even one excavator, if you don't go to the farm on a Tuesday, and the excavator gets onto your land, it would eat all of it up. You know? Yeah. So, the interesting thing is that the illegality and the irresponsibility has nothing to do with scale. And that point has to be really made very clearly. So we said that we're going to, when they come back to Parliament, they were going to deal with it. You see what they've been doing? After the two of them put together, passed that obnoxious LI 2462, they came and they were not juggling on where they are going to sit. That's their interest. So, and I think I will have mentioned a particular point. The firefighters are the arsonists. The people we have put in charge to deal with the issue of Galamsey are themselves the people who are either involved in it, they are either complicit or they are incompetent. So that's the point. And so it is important that all of you sitting here realize the fact that they don't care about us. They do not care about you. And it has nothing to do with poverty alleviation. It has all to do with greed. Are you going to tell me that somebody who's getting 700 million, it's poverty? One of the first communities we went to when we started this fight against Galamsey is a community in Manso Kwanta. Manso Kwanta, I think previously was the highest cocoa district with highest cocoa. When we went there in 2017, my driver had gone somewhere to go and buy fufu. Manso Kwanta, there was no fufu for 10 cedis. They will not cut 10 cedis for fufu. Because at that point, you know, so it's not about the fact that this is a community that was already engaged in cocoa farming. So it's an element of greed. And the greed, it comes all the way from the top. So when they see that the MPP Ashanti Regional Chairperson is involved in an illegality that the president mentions and nothing happens to him, how are you expecting those people in their communities to stop doing anything? So that's one. Look at the issues around the state of emergency. Gordon will tell you that when we, the Operation Halt, that additional 100-member facade that was sent into those communities, that stopped operation after barely 2 weeks. When they left the communities, the Chamfan operators went back there. He had to take their people to go and arrest them and ask him what happened. When they took the people to the police were quick. You see, our last people, they won't grant them bail. They want to quickly grant them bail. It had to take a lot of force for them to even take them to court to prosecute them. So the issues that they need to deal with, they are not dealing with them. Now you talk about the fact that they said there are 14 or so specialized courts. And then the AG will tell us that some 800 cases. Who are the 800 people who are being prosecuted? Have you seen Achimota mining in there? Have you seen Heritage Imperial people there? No. Again, we're using the spider web principle. It catches the small flies, but the big flies break it and get away with it. Exactly. You see, so the challenge is the fact that you, the middle class, you are too quiet. You are either complicit or you are incompetent. You have surrendered the space and you will not fight. There's a picture of a child that was born with 4 legs, 2 hands.
I didn't want to show it.
Without genitalia, when that baby died and they did the postmortem, the bone marrow was the level of toxicity in the bone marrow. In 2017, the Water Research Institute, when we did a camp, they had gone into one of these communities. They bought bread by the side of the road. When they tested the bread, the level of toxicity. So this problem that we're talking about, it's a problem that concerns you and I. But all of you, some of you will call and say, but you know there's elections coming up. Why are you talking about this? So we've sacrificed governance for just elections. And we are going with it. So our frustration is the fact that nothing is happening. And that's the reason why I'm happy that we're doing this today. So that we can call on all of us today that we need to go back. The question that Kafi, you are asking, we need to go back and ask the president. We need to ask the government, that a committee that has been formed, what are you doing with all the things that you said you're going to do? Why is it that when Ghana Water wanted to come and hoodwink us with that ability of water that had moved from 14,000 to 9,000 units, which is so far away from 5,000 NTUs? 5 NTUs, they wanted to celebrate it. What's happening? So currently we have written to Ghana Water. we are asking them to tell us the level of trace metals and heavy metals in all waters that they are treating everywhere. They claim that they've sent the water samples to water research. We wrote also to FDA. They have not responded. We've written to Ghana Standard Authority. They say they are not the regulators. We should go and talk to the regulators.
Nobody wants to bail the cat.
You see?
Nobody wants to bail the cat.
Yes. These are the people who should be bailing the cat, who are all running away from bailing the cat. So, and I think, Prof. God, the point you make about the fact that we should start letting everybody pay for how much of their water that is being treated, I think it's a very good point. Because all of you know that at the last major PRC review that was done, you are all paying an additional 1% because of Galamsey. Do you also know that they've stopped using aluminum sulfate, alum, in doing the coagulation? And you know what they're using? They're using a chemical that is used in treating wastewater to treat the water that you're drinking.
Yep. And it's
the polymer.
more expensive.
It's very, very expensive. Yep. So the challenge we're dealing with is not something that you sit and think that it's somebody else's problem. It is your problem. The level of spontaneous abortions that are happening in some of these communities, grave. Renal diseases, very grave. And the interesting thing is that, again, Prof showed it, because of the promiscuity that's happening there, the level of HIV in these communities are very high. Wait till one of these HIV patients has a renal disease, and they go and put him on a dialysis machine, and you should be the next to go onto it.
Dr. Kenneth Achigbe, in case you just joined us, it's a conversation on Ghana's death by Galamsey. Who will bail the cat? It's live on ChannelOne television. And with all these thoughts, I'm sure you also have thoughts bubbling in your heads. We're going to